The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Arcane Wonders, Game Toppers, a truly, thoroughly exhausted Sean, and listeners like you.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy of the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the Gateway City, St. Louis, Missouri, it's The Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board card and occasionally role-playing games. Today, Abby-my-fiance joins the show to talk recent plays and review Stellar from Renegade Games. Then Sean and Alex dive in for a Duke's sextuple take featuring Wingspan, Underwater Cities, and Call to Adventure. And now, The Dukes of Dice.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And also Alex.
And this is episode 225, Filling the Void. Alex, we're part of the Dice Tower Network. We can't make references like that.
What?
Ooh.
No.
That episode title, courtesy Scott Briance, or as Alex likes to say, Scott Briance.
Oh man, you are really loopy if you're dropping stuff like that right off the bat.
Super loopy, Alex. So this title, Filling the Void, of course, we're talking about Stellar. Actually, we're not talking. The Ducal We is talking, I suppose. You're talking, and Abby is talking about the game Stellar. So there's a space reference there, and I'm not in, so Abby is filling the void.
Can I pause for a second here and note that I referenced Abby as one of the Dukes, because it was referred to as someone referred to her scale as the Ducal scale.
Oh,
and she took some amount of objection to that. And it's funny, we ran this by Suzanne in the early days, Duke or Duchess, and she said Duke. And I ran it by Abby, and I said Duke or Duchess, and she said neither. She wants to be a dude of dice.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So dude of dice.
Okay, I thought you just meant like she wanted nothing to do with it whatsoever.
She wanted nothing to do with it. I mean, that might be closer to the reality, but
yeah.
Nevertheless, she's stepping up, and it's nice to see her skill getting referenced elsewhere.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So real quick, we name all of our episodes with the help of our awesome Board Game Geek Guild. Of course, Scott Briance named this episode, but we're going to give you the runners up at the end of the episode. And by the way, I think I failed to mention we're guild number 2008 over on bgg.com. Alex, do you hear the resolute crystal clarity of my voice?
It sounds so sweet. So pure, so innocent, Sean. How is this happening?
I think I may be committing hubris here, which is an interesting reference to a later episode title that we'll talk about later. But I figured out my microphone problem. Again, I think. I have laminate here. Knock on laminate. So apparently my soundboard, the soundboard that we've had for 6 years, went kaput. I mean, it still works, but not well. And so my mic, the last 2 episodes have been pretty bad. Now I'm on one of our brand new mics, and I tested it earlier today and it sounded good. So fingers crossed, I will see how frustrated I am or happy I am when I edit in a couple days.
Hey, congrats, by the way. You'll have to edit 3 voices instead of 2 for this one. Although I guess most of the time, two of them are at the same time. So it's not a huge deal.
No, it's not a huge deal. And then you always send me yours and Allie's. Wow, I combined Abby and Alex.
Wow, no, it's definitely not Allie. It's definitely Abby. Jeez.
No, I combined you both. That's your celebrity name.
Oh, I see. I got it. If we fused Steven Universe style, or no, not Steven Universe. What show am I talking about?
It's just your celebrity name. That's all it is.
No, there's a show. There's a show where they fuse and there's gems, and maybe it's Steven Universe.
Are you talking about Tuvix from Star Trek Voyager, where there's a transporter accident?
No, I'm definitely not talking about Star Trek. Nope, not talking about Star Trek at all.
Let me finish. Maybe you're gonna know the reference. There's a transporter accident, and Tuvok, the Vulcan, and Neelix, the Talaxian, they form one new person called Tuvix. Now, do you know the reference, Alex?
No, I 100% don't. I've only seen some Next Generation episodes and some of the movies. I don't know anything about Voyager.
Spoiler alert, they murder this new person that just wanted to live, and they go about like nothing happened afterwards. It's one of the saddest episodes of Star Trek I've ever watched.
Now, for someone who insisted via text that they wanted this to be as short as humanly possible ahead of time, you were going off on an awful lot of tangents to start this episode, my friend.
Sure. All I was going to say was that I only have to, okay, you put yours and Abby's tracks together. They're already mixed together by
Sure.
the time they get to me.
Yes.
So if you guys talk over each other, there's nothing I can do about that.
Excellent. Just how I want it.
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, I take that back. Assuming you, jeez.
Assuming the microphone gets here on time. Yes. All this technical talk. Yeah.
Assuming the microphone gets here, you will each be on your own track. So never mind.
I mean, it hasn't gotten here yet. The UPS or FedEx person tried the wrong door. They tried 2128A the other night instead of 2128. So it has not arrived as of the time of this preliminary start of the episode recording, but who knows what'll happen. The world is an endless mystery.
But if you were awake and alert, you would have heard them knocking last night, but you were sleeping for like 11 hours, right?
It's true. That did happen.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
So Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. I think the bigger story is honestly with you this time around. I'm good. Now I will tell you, Sean, the day we're technically set to record the next episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, I will be much closer to you than I usually am because I have planned a trip to New Mexico throughout all of this craziness.
Okay. Are you flying?
Yes, I'm flying, which will require, per the state laws and regulations, a 14-day mandatory quarantine period at a residence, specifically my parents' residence, and then my parents will have to self-quarantine for another 14 days after we leave. So, I mean, it'll trigger that unless that gets waived by the time we fly there, but we've been fairly socially distanced for a number of weeks, and my folks say they feel perfectly comfortable with all this, so I'm down, but I don't think I'll be able to visit you during all of this, unfortunately. So
probably not.
So that will be the next episode. I'll be in New Mexico, but it won't matter for any particular purpose. So that's my story. I'm starting to plan trips and found out we can reschedule our wedding up to 18 months further out, but that's about it.
Eesh.
Yeah. That's life in these times, man.
That is life in these times. They are some crazy, crazy times.
Yep. So, especially crazy for you, Mr. Big Shot Attorney.
Yeah, no, same as the last couple times, just super busy. We're recording on Thursday. I've already worked close to 50 hours this week, probably more. And I've got a full slate of stuff tomorrow, Friday, and then I'm probably going to work Saturday and Sunday, at least half days each.
Yikes.
We're just slammed. There's a very good chance. There's a very good chance that we would have hired or we would be hiring a new attorney if it weren't for the COVID crisis right now. So
can you still do that with the COVID crisis, or does that seem ill-advised?
It just seems ill-advised, not necessarily just for health concerns or COVID concerns, but just because I'm not in the office, you know. It's just not a good time to bring someone on. In theory, there's financial uncertainty, but I've talked before how, I'm very fortunate that our business has done well despite everything going on. So, but still, I don't know. I'm pretty wiped out. Last night was Dukes of Dice virtual Wednesday night, and I was drafting something, and so I dropped in on Matt, Matthew, and Eugene, and just listened to them play a game while I was working.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I'm like, all right, guys, I'll see you later because I was pretty beat. I will say, I know you're going to be doing recent plays with Abby. I don't necessarily have recent plays or new plays to talk about. The only things that I've played recently, I played 2 games of Star Trek Frontiers, which we talked about in the last episode on our board game deathmatch. Talking about it made me want to bust it out, and I did. And I'm going to get rid of it. So,
can I tell you, by the way, there was some controversy on the guild for that last episode.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw this or were aware of it. Yeah,
BJ was not pleased.
Oh, was it BJ? I thought there was someone on there who wasn't pleased about what is it? Something Grove, Walnut Grove.
Oh, that Walnut Grove was not a Little House on the Prairie.
Not actually an IP. Yeah,
I don't know either way.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. It didn't win. It's fine. It's all good. Life goes on.
But it's interesting. I remembered enjoying Star Trek Frontiers a lot more than I did these last 2 plays. So it's in the to sell or trade pile.
Yikes.
It's good. It's good. But that style of game, I don't know, just wasn't doing it for me. And then I also bought War of the Ring because I have never owned War of the Ring. So I ordered a copy of War of the Ring, and I've got it set up upstairs, and I'm going to probably do a solo reteach because I haven't played it since literally since it first came out, or a year or so after that. I mean, I was in Arizona when I played it, so it's been quite a while. And then Chewy and I, you know what Chewy and I played? We played Karuba.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And she did great. She beat me by 1 point.
Actually beat you or beat you?
No, she actually beat me. So Karuba's by Haba, and it's this very simple, kind of almost like a bingo game. They're not really bingo, but you're drawing tiles and people are pulling the same tile. Everyone has their own tiles and they're creating paths to get these adventurers to these temples, and you pick up crystals and diamonds and gold on the way. And then there's some race element. And no, she did great. She needed a little bit of help, but legitimately, she beat me by a point, 17-16. So.
Wow. Okay. Nice. Way to go, Chewy.
That's about it. That is about it. I've been pretty beat. Cause I come upstairs usually about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And yeah.
Do I dare ask for a Dukes of Diet update?
Yeah, no, I'm at 163. I think last time I was at 161. Nope, I keep saying that. 163. Wow. 263. 263 versus 261. It's been fluctuating. It's within that same band. I do feel though that I'm probably losing some muscle mass because I haven't been working out consistently. So yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Gyms are supposed to be opening up pretty soon. I don't know that I'm going to be going back to the gym anytime soon though.
So I will tell you, Sean, in St. Louis County is due to open May 18th. So we're coming up on it. By the time this episode drops, it'll be, I think, a week or so from there. And so gyms will start opening up for us. But Abby and I have had a pretty good routine of doing 5 days a week, at least 6 days a week of gym stuff. So I don't know. We've done a good job of kind of staying in shape and staying in shape together throughout all this. So
that's great.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. But you've been super swamped, so I get how there wouldn't be any bandwidth for that.
Yeah, it's been rough. Yeah, I mean, I was already cooking a bunch at home, so that nothing's changed there. But and I'm still eating fairly healthy. But yeah, it's just hard. It's I think the hard part is, I think I talked early on how there's more snack food in the house, and even if there was snack food before all of this, I was at work and there's nothing to snack on there, right? But I'm here. And I have to go up for something. Oh, hey, let me grab, a handful of whatever. So,
yeah. Ugh. Bummer.
That's good.
Brutal times.
Yeah.
Well, I know you mentioned some of your recent plays and things you've been doing, and that all sounds lovely. But Sean, you're tired and you need a little bit of a rest.
Okay.
So luckily, Abby is to the rescue. Here she is as we take over the show with recent plays and a review coming up after this. Well, Sean, in these tricky times, our friends at Game Toppers want to let folks know that they're still open for business. They're still doing what they can to provide some at-home gaming goodness to help people upgrade their gaming experience while they're trapped at home. So Late Pledge Manager is open on Game Toppers. They have a lot of great bundles on their website, some of which might sell out, so check it out before it gets too late. Also, mats are going to be able to be shipped out relatively soon, so if that's something you've been looking for, hey, great. Thanks to Game Toppers for supporting the podcast and for supporting gamers looking to upgrade their gaming experience.
So go visit them at GameToppersLLC.com.
In these tough times, Arcane Wonders is doing what they can to try and make sure folks can still get their gaming fix while supporting their friendly local game stores. They are offering a discount on their website, and Sean, with that discount, they're doing something pretty cool.
Yeah, so if your local game store refers you to Arcane Wonders, or if you just like to help them out, you can enter their name, city, and state in the comment section of the order, and they're going to reach out to them and send them 25% of the total purchase price. There is no reason Arcane Wonders has to do that other than realizing, hey, these stores help the community, they help our, promote our products. So this is a fantastic way that they're helping out your friendly local game store.
So check out all of their great discounts. Again, everything's 25% off. Just go to arcanewonders.com and check out all of their latest games. Also, Late Pledge is still open for Foundations of Rome. Give me one more level check. 1, 2. Mic check. 1, 2.
Hello.
Yeah, I think that'll work.
Cool.
Cool.
Neat. Awesome. Cool. Neat. Wow.
I think that's where we're going to start off right now. Is just the Abby mic check. Neat. Wow. Cool. Is that your new scale? Have you changed up your scale?
Neat. I don't know how neat would work as a descriptor for if I want. Do you want to play this game? Neat.
I mean, it's not good, I don't think.
I mean, I think no is a better answer than neat.
Ooh, so neat is like a 0?
Neat is a non-answer. It's like when you ask me what I want for dinner and I say, what do you want for dinner? You mean like, do you want to play this game? And I go, neat. Like, it's a non-answer.
Welcome back to the Dukes of Dice podcast, Abby-my-fiance. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm good.
I've caught you in a nice mood. We just settled in, watched a movie, had some Mexican food. So
Yep.
all of the lovely comforts that make Abby-my-fiance tick.
Yes. Bring me Mexican food and a warm blanket and a house I don't have to leave on a Saturday. And I'm pretty good to go.
I mean, you've been pretty lucky on that front as far as,
We've had a lot of Saturdays where I haven't had to leave the house lately. So we did do a socially distanced picnic today.
Yes.
Because all of my friends are moving away. So I guess I should get in my socialness while I can.
Yep. Although, it doesn't take much to fill up your cup on that front.
Absolutely not. 2 hours is content for a week at least.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk games, recent plays, because Sean has not had any time to get any new recent plays of games in. But we have, because in my eternal quest to have more board games than we have room for, I have scooped up some 2-player games during this time. Now, we put this to a vote on the Guild, and very controversially, the game that we'll be reviewing a little bit later on was not quite the winner. It was 1 vote short, by the way. It was very close. But let's talk about the one that was kind of a distant third first. Naga Raja.
First of all, I'd like to go back to your comment of your eternal quest to buy more games than we have room for.
Uh-huh.
You've achieved the quest. The basement is filled with games in which you say you are, and I'm giving you quotes, going to sell, have not yet been sold. You're done.
In fairness.
Congratulations.
In fairness, the pandemic made things a little more difficult because a big part of my plan was to sell games at Geekway to the West, which has now been officially canceled. I can't do it there, so I don't know what you want me to do.
All right. Naga Raja.
So this was a distant third on the list. This is a 2-player game done by Bruno Cathala, art by Vincent Dutrait, published by Huracan. I've never heard of the publisher, but in any case, this is a 2-player Indiana Jones-esque kind of game where you're questing through a temple and trying to come away with the most treasure. Abby, when I picked this one up, I was the least sure of the 3 games. Of the 3 games we'll talk about, this was the one that I thought you would probably like the least. And yet, and we'll talk through all 3 of these, this was not the case, as best I can tell, with your enjoyment of Naga Raja. So to go back just a second, you have cards that you're going to be playing each round. Those cards will get you access to dice. Those dice you'll roll up against each other. Some of the dice results will get you basically points towards winning a special tile that will go in your temple. And some of them will get you symbols that you can use to play cards from your hand to either mess with your opponent or make things better for you or change the results of the dice. You ultimately are trying to connect paths to different idols in your temple. If you connect enough paths to enough points, you win the game. That's the game in a nutshell. There's more to it than that. But I wasn't sure how you take this because you're not always the biggest take that kind of fan. And this game does have that. It's competitive in a very direct way.
Yeah.
Why did you like this one? Because I'm presuming you still do like it.
Yes. No. So, like, the first thing is, like, in the looks. The dice are, like, weird and long and sort of very tactile. They're kind of matte.
They're 4-sided dice.
And they're interesting. They make a really great noise when they all clink together. Like, it's just a good, like, feeling game. And then while it is sort of take that, I don't feel like you have to be mean in order to win unless there's like a very specific instance in which you want to win. But there's so many different ways that your map and puzzle can come together that if you don't get a tile, it's not the end of the world. And it's still got that puzzliness that I tend to enjoy in games.
Yeah, it's the puzzliness of that board that you have in front of you where you're placing these tiles, you're And what's interesting about this game is you might want to try and deny your opponent something, but grabbing that tile yourself might be a big mistake. We found that out our very first game where I would keep winning tiles, but they wouldn't connect to anything.
Yeah.
And so I was very much hosed. It also helps a little bit when you feel like you're competitive in the first game of something. And you weren't just competitive, you beat me.
Yeah, I do like not losing the first time I play a game.
I mean, you've been fine losing some games the first time. But I think kind of the willingness to get back off the mat and play a game again ultimately determines where this would fall on a scale. I think you're right, though. Production is tremendous with this game. Those 4-sided dice, the insert, I would call out, too. Everything's really well organized inside of that box. A lot of nice touches to this game. So, no, I would recommend this one as a 2-player game if that's something you're into. I don't know. What does this get on the Abby scale?
Sure.
Okay. So for folks who are new to the Dukes of Dice, or new to the episodes where Abby appears, the Abby scale is a ranking based on if I asked Abby to play a game, what would her response be? And again, to recap, folks, how does this scale go in order?
It goes no, fine, or no, okay, sure, yeah, heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Usually my games fall between sure, yeah, and heck yeah. I don't really have a lot of games that are okay, fine. I've got no's and I've got yes.
You definitely have you have all of that. And I would add that you also have games, any games that would fall into that or okay category don't usually last very long here. Or I don't play them very much. I think in fairness, there are some on the shelf that would probably fit that bill. And if I got rid of them, probably we'd have room and you wouldn't be super upset. You're giving me a look right now, I think.
No, you could get rid of games I also enjoy and I probably wouldn't be upset. But that's just me.
Abby, my fiance, dragged kicking and screaming onto the podcast once more. All right. Next
Sorry.
up. No, it's all good. Next up, Mandala, which was the vote winner.
You guys have terrible taste.
Wow. Okay. That's not true.
I don't know these people, but clearly they do. They all voted for a game that is not that interesting, that doesn't have like any sort of interesting things to talk about. It has a little piece of cloth. You might as well put down a dish towel, and then you play cards that are freaking impossible to shuffle because there's squares and there's hundreds of them.
So let me go back a step and describe the game.
Trash.
I was shocked with this one. I thought this would be one you would really like. So this is Mandala. It's from Lookout Games, art by Clemens Franz, designed by Brett J. Gilbert and Trevor Benjamin. And while I'm talking through this, I'll try and look up what Brett J. Gilbert has done in the past because, oh yeah, Divonair I enjoyed, and Elysium. Oh, Elysium's fantastic. That's a great game.
Yeah. Oh, Elysium. We love that game.
Don't make fun of me. Anyway.
Future Sean here. Bite your tongue, Abby, my girlfriend. Elysium is a Boxcars Award winner. All right. Back to Abby and Alex.
This is going off the rails. Mandala, as Abby so eloquently described, it comes with a cloth board. It's
not a board. It's cloth.
It's a cloth
just
mat.
It's a dish towel. It comes with a dish towel with a design on it.
Wow. And a bunch of square cards. On your turn in this game, you will do one of three things. You'll either play cards to the center. These are cards that you're trying to win. In one of the two mandalas, there's one on the left and one on the right. You'll play cards in front of you to try and add strength towards the cards in the middle, or you'll discard cards of the same type to redraw other cards. Fairly simple. You do one of three things and go from there. The trick with this one comes in with the different colors. There are 6 different colors in this game, and if a color is present on any part of mandala, it can't be played elsewhere. So for instance, if I have red in front of me, Abby can't play red to the center or to her side, and I can't play red to the center. I can only play it to my side to try and increase my strength to win the cards in the middle. Once all 6 colors are played onto a mandala, we'll stop and we'll score, and we'll basically draft the cards not one at a time, but one group at a time. So if there are 3 black cards and 2 green cards, let's say, Abby, you had more strength on this mandala, you would win your choice to pick either all the black cards or all the green cards, and then I'd get whatever you didn't pick. The first time I get a card of a color, it goes into a scoring area. In front of you, you have scoring areas between 1 and 6. And so if I take all the black cards, the first one is going to go on the 1, if it was the first color I was taking, and the rest would go in my score pile, meaning every black card I get for the rest of the game is worth 1 point. Not great, because again, each of these colors can be worth as much as 6 points. So there's this kind of balancing act of, I might try and deny you from winning something that'll be worth 4 points a card, but that might result in me getting a bunch of stuff that's less valuable for me. There's a balancing act there. I think it's actually pretty enjoyable. Simple mechanics, done well. This one, for some reason, you didn't think there was enough going on.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't have very interesting decision making to me. And it's fine. It's a quick game. Like, if you were like, I really want to play this, it wouldn't be an issue. Like, it doesn't take a ton to set it up. It's not a long, huge endeavor to like get through the rounds or anything like that. It's just not that interesting. And you don't have, like, you can't, I guess you could go through your score pile every turn, but you're not really knowing how many points you scored. And you don't really know, like, oh, I have 6 greens. I should really focus on getting these because, well, no, I just need to make sure you don't get this one to get your 6 points. So I'm screwed. And also you have, like, there's a bit of chance on what cards flip up to start in the middle. Because once you clear one, 2 new cards flip up.
Right.
And if those happen to both be your number 1 card, well, for that entire round, you got nothing.
I mean, you can also put stuff in the middle, which allows you to draw cards, and you can sweeten the pot yourself.
Yeah, but then that gives you greater access to get to those first.
Sure. In terms of playing cards.
Yeah.
The other strategy to me, though, is being able to lock someone out of a color. So, for instance, if I know you really want to win blue to either end the game or blue's worth 5 points, I can play blue to my side of the table to lock you out from playing it to the middle and making it something to win. But ultimately, you just didn't find that decision-making that interesting.
I don't like that kind of game where I'm like, haha, you don't get this thing anymore. Like, that's not fun for me. Like, great, congratulations. If you like that, if you're a big haha kind of game person, go for it. This is a good kind of quick 2-player game, but I don't like dish towels, and I don't like... Who thought these little sheets of fabric? Like, this industry is really cutting cards here. Ha ha. But seriously, like, why are you trying to save a buck? You couldn't afford cardboard? Cardboard is too expensive now?
I think the thought process was for the box size, because they want a large play area with this, right? They want 2 areas where you can play the square cards, and they want the areas in front of you and the stacks there. They could have compressed it a little bit, but if they'd done it in cardboard, they would have needed a larger box, and I don't think they felt it warranted a larger box. Now, that being said, how much do you think that game is worth just on the components and the game?
$9, $9.99.
Yeah. And it's $29.99 MSRP,
yeah.
which to you is outrageous.
Ridiculous.
And it's funny, I discussed this recently on Board Game Gumbo. And when I brought this up, the comments were more along the lines of, I don't know, seems reasonable to me. So
literally everything on OldNavy.com right now is less than $25. You can buy an entire new outfit for the cost of a game.
But will you get the same level of enjoyment?
Yeah, more, actually. 100% more.
I think there's some listeners who you'll be preaching to the choir, and I think there's some listeners who will not be stoked about that.
Yeah, that's fine. They're probably the ones who voted for us to review this game. Sorry.
No, I'll tell you, though, that the reason the votes came in that way, I don't think was to spite you, but because it's a hot game.
Yeah, I don't really think your listeners are out to spite me, although I do apologize for the fact that I've been on this podcast entirely too many times for the amount that I play board games, so sorry.
You play board games more than you realize.
Yes, I do, but how many board games have I ever purchased?
I don't know. How many have you ever purchased?
None. 0.
Okay. Well, you might have purchased Barbie Queen of the Prom if I didn't go out and do it myself.
Maybe. If we ever had a child who was a girl who was into girly stuff.
But also, I think there's a chance you would buy a game for someone else.
I did send Karen some game recommendations in an email on Friday.
What did you recommend?
I recommend. She's been playing Family Game Night with her kids, quarantine, all that. I recommended Suro.
Okay.
I recommended Cobra Paw.
Yeah, good one.
And I recommended, what was the last one?
She's looking.
Pandemic. I felt like Pandemic. So her husband is a big Axis and Allies fan, but she, of course, is not, because who is a big Axis and Allies fan? So I felt like Pandemic would be a good family cooperative in between that her kids who aren't super into games could play with dad who is.
Okay, fair enough. I'm glad you're making recommendations. And the next step is you'll actually be purchasing things for people, or possibly for yourself. Anyway, so
The crowd goes mild.
that's Mandala. I'm guessing based off of just how you're discussing it, this is an okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. If you wanted to play it, I'd probably say sure, because it's not some huge commitment by any means, and it doesn't feel like pulling teeth to play it. It's just not enjoyable. It's not super fun.
See, I think you might need to tweak the scale just a little bit, just because I think there's a big difference, even though they have the same score, between Nagaraja and Mandala. Nagaraja, you're interested in, you're excited about, you think it's a decent game with interesting decisions, and Mandala, the complete opposite. But your reaction would be the same if I asked you the question.
Maybe I should have a 2-point scale.
Oh.
Sure and no.
Sure and no. No, but there's some games that you're more enthusiastic about than that, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later on. We'll see. I don't know. Before that, though, Abby, a long while ago, maybe a month or two ago, perhaps more. No, definitely more at this point. We were sitting on the couch, and I was pulling up NHL team rosters, and I showed you pictures of players on NHL team rosters.
Nothing to do with board games.
No, but it's about to be. I showed you pictures of NHL players, and you gave me snap judgments on those players, just purely based off of looks. It is one of the funniest things I've ever been around for. I'm going to oversell this by saying that this could translate here. But Abby, I have pulled up the top 10 games as rated and reviewed by BoardGameGeek.com. So folks will go on there, they'll rank games.
Wait. So one time I called everyone nerds, and you were like, don't use that term.
I didn't say don't use that term.
You were kind of like, you can't say that. When we were doing a little mic test, but we weren't recording, and I said, hello, nerds. And you were like, good thing we're not recording. But the whole website has geek in the name.
It does. Yeah. No, nerds is fine. Geeks is fine. I think folks would embrace it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. Especially, I think we're going very much down this road with this next game. So, I have pulled up the top 10 games on BGG.
Yeah.
I will read you the one-sentence description, and I will show you the box cover. And you just give me a snap judgment about the game.
Got it.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
First game up, number 1 all-time on BGG, average 8.8 rating, came out in 2017. Gloomhaven is the name of the game.
That's a terrible name.
Okay. Immerse yourself in a fantasy world campaign of creatures and strategic gameplay. And there is the box cover. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's bad. So first of all, when you just said Gloomhaven, I thought of like a show that would star like some sort of British man who everyone thinks is attractive, but like he's not. Like he just has that normal British face, but some reason, like a Benedict Cumberbatch-esque kind of person.
Sure.
As, some sort of detective in the town is called Gloomhaven, and like terrible things happen there. Like that's what it sounds like.
Okay.
And then you show me the box and it looks like fire and doom, which like Gloomhaven feels a little bit more like rain and clouds. The box is a little much.
It's a little intense.
Yeah.
If you saw how big and heavy this thing was, it would, I think, barely fit into one of the cubes of our shelf.
Kill me. Awful.
It's a ginormous game. It is very large.
God.
Anyway, that's the number 1 game of all time.
Never buy that.
Okay. Number 2 all time on BGG, Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Oh, it's on. Oh, that's not on our shelf.
No, that one specifically is not. You have 12 months to save the world against diseases that spread and mutate. So imagine Pandemic, but the board changes every time, and if folks die, you rip up character cards, and the game changes as you go. That's the cover, just so you have a good glance at it.
Yeah. You've told me about this game before.
Well, has it ever interested you? Is that one you want to try?
It seems interesting to me, but I don't know when we would have a consistent group of people to get together with to play this game.
It could be just the two of us.
Sure. But we've had detectives sitting on our shelf.
Oh, yeah.
And we haven't finished that. So we're not great at that. But that game, I don't know if it was the legacy version or if it was the just normal Pandemic, but when we were at Miniature Market one time, it came in like this really cool tin box. And
oh, you're thinking that's the anniversary edition of Pandemic.
That was really cool. So even if that packaging on the BGG thing is off, I give the company top ranks for packaging.
She's a fan. Number 3 all time. This game is called Terraforming Mars.
Good Lord.
Raise the temperature of the red planet and fill it with oxygen to meet your goals. And that is the box cover. Can you see that?
Yeah. I don't like the like borders on it, but like that middle part is very nice. The colors are really nice. It feels very calming. The name is awful. Truly terrible.
Why is it awful?
Terraforming Mars? Really? Like that's so this is what we're gonna do. Like it's not even exciting. You couldn't escape to Mars.
I think there are other twists on that name, but no, I mean...
Terraforming? That was the only word you could come up with?
That's what you're doing. You're literally...
Yeah, I got it. Like, that would be like a game being called, like, Puzzle Box. What is it? It's a puzzle. That's the game. Like...
Oh, I'm so glad I did this.
Yeah.
All right. Next up. Brass Birmingham.
All right.
Tackle new... I don't think you'd like this game at all, to be fair. Tackle new challenges in this sequel to Brass, a hit game of economics and industry. Let me just tell you before I show you the cover of this. Abby, this is, in fact, a train game. Yeah, I know. You're not a fan. There's the cover, though.
Ooh, I do like the cover of that. I don't know the hit game Brass, whereas Brass Birmingham is ranked higher than Brass, so maybe it should just be called the hit game Brass Birmingham. Terrible name. Awful name. When you think of trains.
So I'll give you some more detail. Yeah, but go ahead.
It's intriguing because the box doesn't scream trains to me.
The game very much does. I will tell you, unfortunately.
I mean, if you had to go, how many of the games in the top 10 would I actually play? What would you say?
Oh, boy. Of the ones so far, I think the one pandemic...
No, not the ones so far.
Oh.
You got the whole list in front of you.
I'm clicking through them now. Let me see. No. Maybe, actually. No, definitely not.
I feel like Brass is a good name. Just Brass.
Just Brass. Yeah.
They shouldn't have changed it to Brass Birmingham. Like, if it's the same game, like, call it Brass.
It's because they came out with two different versions of the same game when they redid it.
So what's the upgrade from Brass? Like Brush Nickel?
I don't think they were going to call it that.
Why? Brass Birmingham is good, but Brush Nickel's a terrible name for a game?
I don't know. It might already be a name for a game.
Gold? Bronze?
Bronze? Not bad. I'll read you more, and you tell me if this is actually intriguing for you. Brass Birmingham is an economic strategy game sequel to Martin Wallace's 2007 masterpiece, Brass. Birmingham tells the story of competing entrepreneurs in Birmingham during the Industrial Revolution between the years 1770 and 1870. Your eyes just rolled so hard. As in its predecessor, you must develop, build, and establish your industries and network in an effort to exploit low or high market demands. I'll stop there.
This is awful. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd be a fan of that one. All right. Ready for the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
We're only on number 5.
I know.
We're not even halfway through
I'm
this.
so sorry to everyone who's listening to this right now.
Through the Ages, a new story of civilization. Draft leaders, technologies, wonders, and more to become the most cultured civ.
Wait, what is the name of this game?
Through the Ages, a new story of civilization.
Did that really need to be added? Could they not just do Through the Ages?
What do you think?
Awful box. Yikes.
I didn't think that one would catch your fancy so much.
Ooh, terrible box. It reminds me of like those books you had as a kid where they were like, this is about Benjamin Franklin. And it was like the font is like 27-point font and it has 4 chapters. And they've drawn cartoon pictures of him sitting under a tree with a string with a key on a kite and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, this was what his life was like. Like, that's what that box looks like.
I think you're not too far off.
Ugh.
All right, this next one is the one out of all these games. This is the one you would be least likely to play.
Okay.
Least likely. Twilight Imperium, 4th edition. Command one of 17 unique civilizations in an epic strategy game of galactic conquest. That is your box cover.
Name, fantastic. Description, seems fine. Box, not great. Reads a little like late 90s Super Mario video game cartridge-y
Sure.
to me. I feel like you could have done way cooler box with a name like Twilight Imperium.
Fair enough. Okay. Here's where it's going to immediately lose you as a game.
It doesn't have vampires in it.
Not to my knowledge. Maybe there's space vampires of some kind.
God.
But no, it's more of a space game than a vampire
Really
kind
missed opportunity with the Twilight reference. There.
Yeah, that's fair.
Vampires.
I don't think that's what the reference was about. Let me say this. The playing time listed on the website for this game. On the low end, 240 minutes, also known as 4 hours. The upper end, 480 minutes, also known as 8 hours.
Excuse me, what?
Yep. 4 to 8 hours.
Who has 4 to 8 hours?
So this is a game, and I've played this before, where you literally plan out a Saturday. You pick a Saturday a week or two in advance and say, we're going to play this game. This is all we're going to do. We're going to start at 10 a.m. and we're going to wrap up in the evening. And we'll grab lunch in between, and hopefully we'll get done in time.
Like, look, as a person who loves to stay home on a Saturday, as discussed, doesn't your like butt start to get sore and like your brain start to hurt and be like, oh my God, is this going to wrap up yet?
I will tell you, having played it, that time moves by faster than you'd think.
How much do your decisions that you make in hour 1 impact your decisions and things happening to you in hour 8?
Significantly. Actually, significantly.
Because
you have to go down different things of a tech tree.
I don't buy it.
Okay, it's fair. This next one, there's an outside chance you would play this one, but actually probably not.
Okay.
Star Wars Rebellion. You've seen all of the movies and you enjoyed some of them.
I love how you say you've seen all the movies as if that was a choice that I was just like, you know what we should do this weekend? Watch all the Star Wars movies.
Keep the rebel base hidden or find and destroy it, depending on which side you back. So you either play as the Empire or you play as the Rebellion.
Did you pick this game for that one where you had to pick IP games?
I don't remember. I think I did, actually. Yeah, it didn't win.
Wow.
What do you think of the box?
Bad. The font is awful. Terrible. It's fine. I mean, they had to put Star Wars in the name. I feel like Rebellion would be a pretty good board game name.
Sure.
But like they had to put Star Wars to get that money. Heyo. So
and they got that money.
Yeah, so that's fine. It seems like a game that would probably be fine to change the theme completely off of Star Wars and just do like space guns, but they had to get the money, right? They had to get people to buy into it by it being Star Wars.
Yes. Also, they paid a lot of money to be able to use the name Star Wars in the first
I get
place.
it, but like it seems like the game is not designed on the fact that it's Star Wars. It was just Star Wars was put into a game that was already designed.
I'm going to make a prediction. This next cover will be your least favorite cover.
Oh, yikes.
The game is Twilight Struggle, 2005 game. Relive the Cold War as you guide the USA or the USSR to political victory. And here's the box.
Honestly, it's better than some.
Really? Okay.
The name is awful. Twilight Struggle. Like, this just feels offensive to people who lived through the Cold War and, like, all that in, you know, the Balkan states or where, you know, on Russia, and they're, like, starving and dictatorships, and we're like, we've made a board game of your struggle. Like,
Future Sean here again. I'm dying inside. That's all.
we had this conversation one time where I was like,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
certain things you cannot make a board game out of. And you're like, no, you can make a board game out of anything. And I was like, you can't have the Holocaust, the board game. It was when you tried to tell me that the slavery board game was okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of that game. I don't have it anymore, but Freedom the Underground Railroad. I don't know. I thought it was a well done. We've talked. This is not a conversation worth getting back into. Absolutely, maybe in a future episode.
I'm just saying, I have boundaries. I have board game boundaries, and like, you're not going to have 9/11 the board game. I don't think you should have Cold War the board game.
Interesting. I think there's a distinction there, but I really don't want to jump into this right now. Anyway, next up, Gaia Project.
All right, I like that name. Sorry, I almost cursed.
That's fine. Sean would have bleeped it out later. Mine, research, upgrade, and colonize your way to Gaia with one of 14 factions. And the cover looks like this.
All right, yeah, I support all of this. I love the creativity. The Gaia is like not an already existing thing. It's a thing they've made up. The name is good. So it feels like a name that like some real crunchy parent would name their kid. They'd be like, "This is our son Gaia," and you're like, "What?" You know, you feel like it should be a dog name, but they've given it to a child.
This has gone in some unpredicted directions.
But yeah, no, I like that. The brief sentence description sounds normal, fun, interesting.
I don't think you'd like this game.
I don't want to play it at all.
Yeah.
It probably takes 3 hours.
It does.
Yeah, nope. Hard pass.
All right. And the final one, the last one in the top 10, Great Western Trail. That was a reaction.
God, probably has trains.
It does, in fact, have trains, but trains are not the featured thing of the game. Use strategic outposts and navigate danger as you herd your cattle to Kansas City.
Oh my gosh.
And, wait for it, there's your cover.
Ugh. Kind of reminds me of that movie, There Will Be Blood.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen that?
I probably fell asleep during it. And...
Sorry, I just tried to move Stellar closer to me. We're getting into the rules explanation, which we're about to do for the review here shortly.
I told you that I was doing this.
Oh, okay, sorry. Pardon me. I thought you were joking when you said that.
I wasn't.
Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. There Will Be Blood, which you fell asleep during.
Probably. I don't recall. I do remember like an oil rig, like a lot of oil shooting up, and a man with a mustache and a menacing face.
Yeah, sounds right. I've never seen the movie. I really want to.
We have a television and access to movie rentals, so that could be a thing you could do.
It'd be a change of pace from Mamma Mia and Rock of Ages,
yes.
our two most recent movies.
There Will Be Blood, the musical.
Whoa.
I support it.
Okay, awesome. But you do not necessarily support this game.
No, absolutely not. First of all, Kansas City, herd your cattle to Kansas City. Have you guys been to Kansas City? Have you been to Kansas? Like, that's it? That's what the nerds could think of?
It's meant to be an older version of Kansas City. This is not meant to be a modern-day Kansas City.
That's even worse. We live in the middle of the country. I feel like I can talk openly about the middle of the country. There's no need to come here. There's no need. You were playing some game online with a listener who lived in Belgium. And he was like, where do you live? And you said St. Louis. And he was like, looked it up on a map. And he was like, oh, I don't really know anything about it. And it was like, yeah, don't. Like, you don't need to know anything about it. Feels accurate.
It feels like you're trying to tell me we should move.
No, absolutely. I've lived in the middle of the country my entire life. Like, I'm not anti the middle of the country. I've had a pretty decent life. I don't feel like I've, struggled or anything. I'm just saying the middle of the country isn't some hip happening spot where board games should be based. When you can literally make up anything. The world is your oyster and the universe is your oyster because it could be set in space in a made-up planet. You picked Kansas. Like, ugh.
And there you have it, Abby's assessment of the BGG top 10. So out of those 10 games, I think the most likely one to get you to play would be Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, fair enough. We may have to do this again in a future episode. We'll see what the reaction is. I'm very curious.
I hope everyone skipped through that. And Sean put a timestamp here. And welcome to the show. This is the review you've all been waiting for. Or half of you, because the other half wanted Mandala, which was a terrible game.
Oh, boy.
It's Stellar!
Is that your intro? Are we just going from here? Because there's usually a section where I'd go something like... It's a game where you're earthbound, looking through a telescope, trying to discover gas planets, but no.
Would you like me to do it?
Yeah, go for it.
In this game, you're stargazers, calibrating your telescopes to bring into view celestial objects of various types. Planets, moons, asteroids, interstellar clouds, black holes, and even satellites. And as you create a beautiful display of the night sky, maybe you can win.
Okay.
That's Stellar, made by Renegade Game Studios, a game by Matt Riddle and Ben Pinchback. Wow, that's a great name. Pinchback.
You like Pinchback?
Pinchback.
Pinchback Goldsmith?
Pinchback Goldsmith. PB Goldsmith.
Yeah.
Great name. PB and Osiris.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, so for folks who don't know that reference, we've talked about our future child, if we didn't like them, naming them Osiris.
Yeah. This is a great game. If you're bored in quarantine and you're sick of all the board games you have, what would you name your child if you hated them? Osiris, top of our list.
Yeah, Osiris, up there, for sure.
PB is also now on the list.
By the way, very sorry to any of our listeners named Osiris.
I'm sure it fits you well. I'm sure your parents knew. I'm sure your parents don't hate you because Osiris is top of our list and clearly it wasn't top of their list. Maybe their list had Derek at the top. You never know.
I don't think Derek's likely for us either, though. Derek Goldsmith?
Derek's terrible with Derek Goldsmith.
Yeah, anyway.
Yikes.
So that's Stellar.
You've ruined my entire Stellar intro.
Sorry, continue on. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, so Stellar's a game. And sorry, you threw me off my groove.
I don't think this is at all my fault.
You. Okay, so Alex brought home Stellar. Said, who recommended this to you?
I don't know if anyone recommended it to me.
Yes, someone recommended. You were on the phone with a man.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is very important. Mike Fitzgerald. Mike Fitzgerald recommended this to me.
Thanks, Mike. Does Mike listen to this?
Yeah, he does. He's usually a little behind, so it might be a month or so.
Well, hello to June, Mike. I hope the world is doing better. But thanks for recommending this game. Great recommendation. So
how do you play Stellar?
How do you play Stellar? You play it with your hands. Okay. Stellar has these, how many cards is it? 12? 1, 2, 3.
You're talking about the telescope cards in front of you.
12. 12 telescope cards. They're normal size playing cards, unlike Mandala, which has weird, stupid square cards. Normal playing card size cards. You each have 12. You put them together in this sort of pyramid-esque shape, and it creates a telescope. It's a little bit fiddly for my taste, but it can work because the game pays off. It would be better as a board, but I can forgive it because the box is small and it looks nice.
We're jumping so far ahead in the segments of this review. How do you play the game?
This is my review.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know why you're talking about the segments. Do you and Sean typically review the 10 top games and talk about their box art?
No, not usually.
Yeah, so stop applying Sean rules to my review.
Got it. Sorry.
The
Carry
people
on.
want to know what I have to say.
they do.
So you put your 12 telescope cards in front of you. Your partner puts theirs in front of them. You each have your own telescope, which you are going to fill up with sky trash. You start with 2 pieces of the sky, and you get to pick one to put in your telescope and one to go in your notebook, which is just the piece of the table that isn't your telescope. All of the things in your notebook get you points for all of the things in your telescope. So you need like a good combo of both to be able to score points. You also can score points for having a wide variety of things in your telescope. You also score points. Your telescope is broken up into 3 different sections, and you get points for each section if you have the highest number of points in that section.
Yeah, not points, but the highest card number on
Yeah,
there.
the cards have different values for different things. So you have 5 cards that you can draw from, and when you pick, you get to pick 1 card each turn. Then, once you have 2 cards in hand, 3 cards.
You have 3 total once you draw a card.
3 cards in hand after you draw one. You play a card. You can choose to play that card into your telescope or into your notebook. It does not matter. If you play that card and it has a 4 on it or a 5 on it, you take the card in that spot of the 5 that are available to you to choose from. If there isn't a card in that spot because that's the one you picked, you have to just draw off the top of the deck, and that card goes in the place you did not play. So, telescope or notebook. You get 12 turns. Once your telescope is full, you start adding up points. Did that make any sense, Alex Goldsmith?
It made a lot of sense. You were most of the things I would highlight. Technically in it, it's 11 turns because you start off with 1 card seated at the top of your telescope, and then it's the other 11 spots that get filled in on the other turns.
Sure, that's fine. I mean, you could call that a turn, but you could also call it not. So that's fine. I'll take the adjustment. That's fine.
It's part. Yeah, you're open to coaching?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Additional other feedback. No, I don't have any other feedback. We'll talk about it as we get through the review. That's a perfectly fine setup. You did a great job. I'm very sorry for disrupting your flow earlier in this presentation.
Yeah, you should be.
Into the review format. What were your expectations for this game? When I showed you the game, talked about the game, when you first opened it up, laid eyes on it, what were you expecting from this?
I don't know what I was expecting, but I do really love like little box games. So like some of my favorites are Hanamakoji or Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden, and they all come in like little tiny boxes. And this one is the same. It comes in a little tiny box. It's easy to travel. It's easy to get off the shelf and set up. It's not really fiddly. It's nice. I like that. So when it showed up at the house, I was like, all right, I appreciate this. The box is very lovely and pretty. The art is very nice. You got it all set up for me, so I didn't have to do like setting up of my telescope the first time we played. I did find that a little bit weird because it shifts a little bit. But I think after a couple turns, it sort of became a non-issue. And the first round we played, I really wasn't entirely sure like strategy or anything on how to go after that. And you won handily on that round. And then we played it again immediately afterwards. And I felt like the first time I was playing it, it kind of went for everything. And I decided to focus on just some things and be really good at those things. And that tended to work out a lot better for me. So once you kind of understand the decision-making that happens, I found it a lot more enjoyable. And that took a play for me to catch on to that.
My expectations were reasonably high. Anytime Mike recommends something, because he designed Baseball Highlights 2045, maybe first mention, I don't remember if we talked about this earlier in the show when Sean and I recorded. Anyway, it doesn't matter. My expectations tend to be pretty high. Sometimes it's been warranted, sometimes less so. First Class he recommended, loved First Class. Undaunted Normandy he recommended, did not like Undaunted Normandy that much. This one I was optimistic I'd like just based off of the look and reading through some of the mechanics and getting a sense of the game. It seemed like it would be enjoyable. Art and components. And Abby, you addressed some of this already. The big thing is, it's just cards and a score pad, ultimately, inside of this box. And how they use that in a way is you build a telescope out of cards. It looks cool in a way because everything lines up and it has this kind of nice mosaic feel to it. It is also a little bit clunky, and it's the thing that takes the longest in the setup of the game, is getting that telescope built. What were your overall impressions of the art and components of this game?
I really like the art on the cards. There's different things, like it said on the intro, interstellar clouds and black holes and planets, and all the art is done really nicely. All the markings on the cards are very clear, and you can tell exactly what they are. The box art is really beautiful. The telescope itself of the cards is really beautiful and looks really nice. Just sort of shifts around a lot and doesn't always stay exactly how it should.
Yeah, and they have the clear numbers and iconography. It's easy to tell what's going on in this game. Not that there's a ton of iconography really needed in this game.
No.
But it's easy enough to distinguish between the different sets. It's easy enough to see how many points is this card going to get me, the value. Everything you need is there. Plus, they have these little fun facts at the bottom of the card, too, just as a little bonus add-in. So, no, I thought the art style was gorgeous, looked great. The game itself, the game box, I think looks stunning. I love the look of this game from the outside. It has the little bit of spot UV for some of the planets on the front of the box, those kind of shiny parts. I don't know, from a box look and a table presence, there's a lot going on for a game that's just cards.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, it could have come in like a little card box, like that a box of 52 cards comes in, and it doesn't. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, it has enough presence. It's not overwhelming in its size. It might have been nice to have a board with the telescope stuff, but not having it is not the end of the world. It's really the only small negative I would identify with this game. So that moves us into the biggest chunk of things, which is gameplay. Gameplay. How does Stellar play, and what is it about it that has hooked you? Because you really did enjoy this one from maybe not the first play, but certainly by the second play when you were starting to kind of get a sense of how things moved around. What was it about this game that hooked you in?
This game is very like singular. Like, I guess I could take a card to mess you up if I like know that you're really going for these things, but you have so few turns that really hurts you if you take a card just to try and mess someone up, and you have no clue what's going to flip off the draw for them anyhow, so it could end up doing nothing, and now you've just taken a bad turn. So for me, it felt like I could just play my own game and really focus on my decisions and stuff, and that would work out fine for me. And I like a game like that. I like a game where it's me versus me, and then we do points at the end.
For me, what I really like about this game and appreciate is how simple and yet innovative it feels. And what I mean by that is it has this really cool take of, okay, pick a card, take any card you want of the 5, but then from the 3 cards in your hand, you have to be very careful with what you do. Because if I play something over to my notebook, I might get good value out of that, right? I might complete a run. What we didn't talk about in exact detail, just to kind of fill in just a little bit more, is things in your notebook, you're looking for runs of cards. You're looking for 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, or best yet, 0 through 6 is certainly possible in this game. Because that's going to multiply against the star values of what you have in your telescope. So you want high star values in your telescope. The trick is those come on low-numbered cards, which costs you in another scoring area, so you have to balance that in your mind. You want to build these runs together, because that's going to hit a nice multiplier, but if you play something over here, you're then forced to play something else that you might not want into your telescope. So I have free choice of the card I take, I have free choice of the card I play, and which side to play it in, but then I have to deal with the repercussions of what comes next. And if I play something that was from the area I took and it's blank, I'm going off the top of the deck, and I might completely hose myself with whatever flips off the top of the deck. It might be something that really messes up my strategy or is completely worthless. Is an area of cards I'm not looking to score at all. And you have to really balance that out. And there is some small consideration, not a huge one, for can I keep her from getting, say, the 3 of Interstellar Clouds or one of the 3s of Interstellar Clouds? Because if she gets that, she's going to have a huge run. It's going to make a ginormous difference in terms of points. That's a consideration. The placement rules of this game. So we didn't talk about this either, but when you play cards, they have to go next to cards of the same type. So if I have an asteroid here, that locks in where asteroids have to go the rest of the game. And it's possible, if you misplay stuff, you'll get something that you cannot play onto your board. Or you'll get something that is, again, completely valueless, absolutely without value to you. It becomes especially tense late in the game when you just have 1 or 2 gaps and you're trying to finish this run, but also fill this thing out. And those sort of dueling priorities between those 2 parts of your board, I think really make for an interesting decision. But it's dirt simple in concept, right? Take a card, play the other card. It's super simple, but it doesn't feel simple to me. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I think that's what I liked about it. Like, it felt thinky, but it wasn't one of those where it's going to take 20 minutes to think through a decision. Like, your decisions are numbered. There's only 5 cards out there. There's not, like, if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, and you move on. So, okay, let me play through a couple scenarios in my head, and here we go. Like, the game moves because there isn't too many decisions to make, but you still have some interesting decisions to make.
And it plays quickly. The game is listed on BGG as about 30 minutes. I'd say we can get through one of these even faster than that, especially if we're playing back-to-back plays. Could probably get through 2 games of this easily in 40 minutes.
Probably.
Sounds about right. And yeah, there's also, although you mentioned it is about kind of what you do that's important, because you have those comparison things at the end of the game, right? I'm comparing against you for this top section, the middle section, and the bottom section to determine who gets points. And we had games that literally flipped on who won one of these sections. That me winning the section, I think in the first game, you mentioned me kind of kicking your butt. Mm-hmm. Didn't happen score-wise, because literally you won one section that I didn't, and it would have been either much closer or you would have won. It was that close.
Yeah, it was like 10 points, but the section was worth like 10 points, or
right.
A bonus was worth that much, or something like that.
And that's where tracking comes into play, right? I might notice that your middle belt has a total of 8 or 9 numbers. They're not points, but numbers. And I might want to try and play something to my middle belt that will let me beat you. But that might break up a chain, or it might keep me from playing more asteroids, which score well for me, or it might. You're balancing a lot of different interests in these small decisions, and it's just elegant. It's elegant. It flows, and it works really, really, really well, I think. So yeah, I mean, it does everything you want out of a 2-player game. If you don't like a ton of conflict, there's some conflict here, but it's not huge.
No.
It's not a take that. It's not a mean game. I can't move stuff around in your telescope and mess up your pattern or mess up runs or steal cards from you. But I can take something you might really want. And you'll have to hope that you get another chance at it later, or you can kind of finagle and work around. So any of those kinds of decisions don't feel devastating when they happen. I think that's really cool. Let's talk about theme. Did you feel immersed in the theme of this game?
What?
Well, you're gazing through a telescope. Does this game feel like it needs to be a space theme? Could it have been any other theme and it would have been just fine? Did you feel a thematic connection to it or not really?
I mean, it could have been a different theme, right? Like you could make it a giant watering can and you're picking flowers. Like it could have worked for some other themes. I think space worked well. The art was beautiful and I think they picked a good theme. You were on something where they were talking about it being a lighthouse.
That was on BJ's show. Yeah, he was like, I don't know, it could have been a lighthouse theme or something like that.
Like it could have. Like it totally could have been a lighthouse with boats. Like it could have been a ton of different themes. There's nothing about this specific theme that impacts these decisions and stuff, but it works like visually. I'm fine with space as a theme. It's not trains. It's not robots.
Yeah.
Into it.
I will say, it is almost as used, if not more used, than something like trains.
Yes, but I don't play a lot of the space games. A lot of the train games are the ones where they try to like get you in.
What do you mean by get you in?
You know, they're gateway drugs.
Sorry, what?
Ticket to Ride. That's a gateway drug.
Yes. Okay. And you think most train games... Okay, wait. I'm trying to understand this better.
Like, the train games are the ones where they try to get you hooked, to get you into the hobby.
Oh, boy.
Before you play the 8-hour space game.
I think it's just that one train game. And also, let me be clear, there are several 8-hour train games, too.
Sure. I'm sure there are, because the people love the thing that got them into the game and into the hobby, and they want it when they're devoting entire days to it as they abandon their families. I get it. I'm just saying it's a bad theme.
Okay.
Trains. I mean, really?
This is your biggest pet peeve with board games.
The themes, man. All of you suck at themes. Like, I was listening to you record your part with Sean earlier.
Yeah.
Granted, I only hear one half of the
Right,
conversation,
you don't hear Sean.
so I don't actually know everything that was said.
Yeah.
But you guys were talking about Wingspan, and people were like grumping about it because it's not a good game or whatever.
So wait, hang on. To be clear, in the order of this episode, the grumping about Wingspan comes after this section of the
All
podcast.
right, so you guys are about to hear people grump about Wingspan. Spoiler alert. Skip ahead if you don't want to hear my thoughts on this matter. It's such a unique theme, such an interesting theme that's not been done. The art is beautiful. Like, this hobby could allow for so many ideas. Endless ideas. You could build a computer and all of your little cards are little computer pieces. You could build a hamburger and all of your parts are like burgers and lettuce and cheese. You could grow a tree. Like, there's so many things. You could decorate a house. There's nothing that. You guys stick to trains and space and robots. Like, the lack of creativity hurts my soul.
I will speak on behalf of other gamers in this moment and say, for literally every example you just gave, save for, I can't think of decorating a house.
Future Sean again. Dream home.
But grow a tree? Absolutely a game. Arboretum. Make a burger? There's a McDonald's game. McDonald's the board game. But there's also Kitchen Rush and some other ones that kind of fit that vein. What was the other one you mentioned?
Build a computer, and
Build
each of your parts are like little computer interior parts.
There's a game called Transistor or Resistor, done by Level 99.
You don't even know what the game is called. You could name 10 train games off the top of your head that we have in our house.
We don't have 10 train games in this house.
We don't have a hamburger game?
We don't have a hamburger game. That's true. We should get a hamburger game.
I'm just saying. There's a lot of themes that haven't been used and abused like trains have. Like, let the trains live. Let them just be trains and stop trying to make them fun.
Stop trying to make trains fun, says Abby. Okay, well, that's as good a point to pivot into final thoughts and rating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Stellar. Stellar is not trains. Great theme. It's space. I mean, yeah, it's fine. Immersed in the theme feels like a weird thing to say. I don't think I've ever been immersed in a game.
Yeah, to wrap up this discussion, and I will agree with you, the theme works. It works for what the game's trying to do. It doesn't feel disconnected.
Nope.
It doesn't feel like it's incredibly immersive either, but it doesn't get in the way. So, that being said, what score do you give this two-player game, Stellar, on the Abby scale, which again, as a reminder, ranks from or ranks from no to heck yeah. What is this one going to get?
A yeah.
A yeah, okay. Why is it better than a sure, and why is it worse than a heck yeah?
It's better than a sure because I know I like this game. So if you wanted to play it, I would say yes. Like, I wouldn't him and haw and give you the option to pick something else. Like, I like this game and I want to play it. So yes, it gets a yeah and not a sure. I'm not willing to change my mind if this is the one on the table. But it doesn't get a heck yeah from me because the telescope is just a kind of bit fiddly, and I don't really have a lot of games that are heck yeahs. You really got to impress me, and I don't think I played this one enough to be in the heck yeah.
So it could get to a heck yeah if we played it more, you got more into it, it kind of kept growing in esteem. I feel like Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden was one that started off as a yeah and became a heck yeah.
I think I gotta work my way up to a heck yeah. I don't think there's any game that I played one time and has been in the heck yeah field.
Okay. Well, typically at the Dukes of Dice, we rate games on a 6-point scale. Her scale is also a 6-point scale.
When you have the dudes of dice, we use a different scale.
Yeah, to be clear, you wanted to be referred to as a dude of dice.
A dude of dice. Dude is a gender-neutral term.
Sure, I don't mind calling
not.
you. Yeah, okay. Then dude of dice it is. Dude Abby. We rank things on a 6-point scale, 1 being bad, bad, very bad, 6 being good, good, very good. And I'm hemming and hawing a little myself on this final score. It's between a 5 and a 6. 5 is a great game, will rarely turn down a play of it, and a 6 is an all-time favorite contender for the top 10. And I think this is one that would have a chance at a 6 a year from now. There's a chance this rises on the double take, which is unusual for a game to do. Usually, we rate a game, we're super excited about it, and then it kind of falls off. I think this one has a chance to increase in esteem in my mind, or certainly stay where it is. And I'd say this is a high 5. It's very close to a 6, but I wouldn't quite go just there yet. I'm with you that it's something holds me back, and maybe it's the telescope. Maybe there's a question about, is the strategy sometimes too simple in terms of if I'm playing big clumps of points and runs, does that always beat someone who just focuses on getting the most in a section? If I have the most in this section, and this section, are there multiple paths to victory? I'm not sure there are multiple paths to victory in this game. Maybe it doesn't need it, but there's just a little bit that holds it back. So very, very strong praise for this game, though. It looks beautiful, plays well, feels innovative, and hey, you might just get your fiance to play it, or girlfriend, or wife, or significant other who's not into board games.
You just used all female.
I know, and I'm regretting it immediately.
Yeah, you should.
Okay. Your significant other, male or female, who is not as into games. You could just say significant other. I should have.
Your partner.
You're right. You're dead right.
What do you give Mandala?
Oh, I have to go. I'm giving Mandala as a score.
Yeah.
Probably a 5 too. I really like that game.
Oh, okay.
I think there's more to it than you're giving it credit for.
I couldn't get over the dish towel.
Is that literally the only problem with the game is the dish towel?
And those cards that are impossible to shuffle.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, and Nagaraja would be about a 4 for me.
Yeah, okay. That seems fair.
So we're on the same page with most of these, but definitely a big difference on Mandala. Anyway, we're talking Stellar. That is the Dude of Dice and the Duke of Dice review of Stellar. Abby-my-fiance gives this one a yeah, or a 5. And I give this one a high 5, not quite a 6.
Or a yeah.
Abby, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm sorry to everyone.
You're always sorry to everyone.
Yeah.
But I think this always turns out better than I expect.
Does it?
It does, than I expect. I can't speak for the listeners, but...
I mean, they were very honest about what game we wanted them to review, and we just completely disregarded that. So even if they're very honest about the opinion of me on the show, you could just completely disregard that.
Fair enough. All right. Thanks again.
On that note...
Da-da-da-da-da-da. Abby!
You are listening to the Dukes of Dice, proud members of the Dice Tower Network. For other great shows in the network, check out dicetowernetwork.com. Back to Alex and Sean for this week's Dukes Double Take.
Thanks again to Abby-my-fiance for jumping in and joining this. I am recording this before we actually record that segment, so We'll see if thanks is the appropriate phrasing to use there, but probably.
Let's just pretend.
Yeah, let's just pretend. She gave me a very dirty look when I said that just now, like a really dirty look from the couch.
What an excellent review. I think Abby's analysis was apt.
I agree. Her analysis on the game was spot on. The score she gave, I was a little surprised by that score, but I actually don't know what score she gave it, so I probably wasn't surprised. Anyway. Abby gave it a 0. She's signaling from the couch. That's not a score on her scale as far as I know. So anyway, weird. Anyway, we're back, and it's now time for the Duke's sextuple take. And we got a trio of, well, we've got 2 heavy hitters and then one kind of not so heavy hitter in this one, this time around. Let's start with episode 198 from On a Wing and a Fair, when we talked about Wingspan. And Sean, we'll get into this, but Wingspan has been in the discussions a lot of late pertaining to the BGG Awards, and this got mentioned in some comments, so we'll kind of talk about it as we get to it.
Let me just say, what an overrated pile of crap. That's all I've got to say about Wingspan. Go on.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. I'm totally joking.
Yeah. Anyway, Sean, you gave this one a high 5 at the time. Not a 6, but a high 5. You said production value was fantastic, strong attention to detail, combo synergies, engine building, all great. The one thing you said as a big downside was you weren't a fan of this game at 2 players.
Right.
I gave this one a high 5 as well. Production, gameplay, all comes together. It made an unusual theme work. The execution on this was spot on. Sean, have you played this game since, and have you played the expansion since?
I have not. That's a no to both.
Oh.
It is. So I never wound up picking up this game, partly because I didn't think the theme would gel with Raquel. Hey, that rhymed. And I figured we might have a hard time getting it to the table. And then I figured, well, it's at Empire and it's going to stay in Empire. And it's very popular at Empire. So I'll be able to play it. We haven't really brought it out that much. I mean, it's definitely a lighter game. So for those that don't know, this is from Stonemaier Games, designed by Elizabeth Hargrave. It is an engine building you're building a tableau with these bird cards. You're building, is it a bird sanctuary? Is that what it is? Or a bird habitat? Or
yeah, habitat. Yeah, you have different habitats within a bird sanctuary, I think is right.
And so there are different rows. There are the different types of habitats, and they give you different things. Some give you resources, some give you eggs, some give you abilities. There's an engine building element to this game, and it's really solid. It's a really solid game. I mean, you kind of said it in the my thoughts from before, that great combo play, great synergies. Yeah, it's a really solid game, but for whatever reason, I haven't got it to the table much. And it might be a factor of the weight, because it is a bit on the lighter side.
Does that affect your score if you rescore it, Sean?
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to think of a 5 and me not wanting to own it. Does this drop to a 4? So I would certainly say it's no longer a high 5. 4 is a good game, worth playing, just not all the time belongs in the Duchy. 5 is a great game, will rarely turn down a play of it. No, I think that's true still. I'm going to give it a 5. It's going to be kind of a settled 5.
Okay. So down a little bit, but not significantly.
Yeah, not enough to drop the score.
Okay.
Just slightly less enthusiastic. But if someone was like, let's play Wingspan, I'd be like, sure, totally. And I'm very excited to try the expansion.
As well, you should be. It's a good expansion. So I will say this about Wingspan. I have played this game a ton since this review. I have picked up, not only through the copy I have, but have the expansion for it as well. There was some talk at the time, and obviously anytime we talk about a Stonemaier game, there's issues with bias. I play in Jamie's game group, which is now more of a virtual game group. So I know Jamie personally. I love Stonemaier. I've given several of their past games a 6 even before I knew Jamie personally. I have a lot of respect for what they do. I will tell you, my bias, if anything, should in theory have gone down, because I applied for a job at Stonemaier and did not get such a job at Stonemaier. So if anything, this is more of an honest score, and I feel no qualms about saying this is actually a 6. It's not a high 5, it's a 6. I think some of my concerns about bias were holding me back a year ago, and genuinely, this game is a treasure. I mean, from its production values to just everything. I mean, it nails everything. It's thematic, it's fun, it's replayable, It's enjoyable. You can play it with newer gamers. I taught it to one of Abby's friends' moms, and she dug it. But I've also played it with gamers and had a good time. It checks an awful lot of boxes for me. And I get the pushback on the overhyped part, and we can talk a little bit more about that and the awards as this comes up in the comments. But for me, I think it's deserving of all the praise it gets, and I'm excited to see future expansions. And yeah, I mean, obviously it earned the Kenner spiel. I think it was well deserving of that. I think it's a fantastic game, and trust me, I get the pushback against overhype. When I was in high school, I would talk crap about Red Hot Chili Peppers, having never actually heard them. So I definitely was one of those, if it's popular, it's I hate it kinds of people. So I can get where that comes from, and some of the criticisms may be legitimate, but honestly, in my book, this is a really stellar game, really good.
So let's talk real quick. This game pretty much swept this year's BGG awards. I mean, like,
controversially, I should say.
Yeah. So it won Board Game of the Year.
Yep.
With runners up Paladins of the West Kingdom and Tapestry, another Stonemaier game. It won Artwork / Presentation, which I think makes total sense. It won Best Card Game, which I don't. It's a game with cards. Cards are the dominant component in a lot of ways, but I still don't think of it as a card game. Beat Marvel Champions, which would have been my pick for a card game of the year, and that feels like a more card game. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does. And for instance, would you consider Baseball Highlights 2045, first mentioned, a card game? I would not. I would consider it more of a board game that has strong card elements.
Yeah.
And Wingspan fits the bill for that in that sense for me too.
On a spectrum, I'd say it's more of a card game than Wingspan, but not as much of a card game as Marvel Champions. And it's subjective. It's obviously subjective. Wingspan won Best Expansion for the European expansion. Wingspan won Family Game. Let me jump ahead here on the list. And it also won Best Strategy Game, which seems like a contradiction, because strategy game is kind of meant to be a little meatier, at least my understanding of it's weird. It seems oxymoronic to say that it could both be the best family game and the best strategy game. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, look, I mean, this is a game that it could have, in theory, fit into that category, either category. But even Elizabeth Hargrave herself, and she had a wonderful thread on Twitter talking about this, was talking about the categories are not cleanly defined and not well defined in this case. And it's a problem with the categories being defined. She's not shying away from the accolades the game's getting. It won the Kenner Spiel. It's gotten a ton of praise. And you can think it didn't deserve Family Game and still think it deserved Game of the Year, right? And vice versa. So, I think it's an issue with the categories not being cleanly defined and there not being a good assessment. The thought process she recommended was possibly having a weight rating, that if it's below this weight rating, it falls into this group. If it's above this weight rating, it falls into this group.
Yeah.
Between those two, is it more worthy as a strategy game winner or a family game winner to you? Neither fit, right?
Yeah, neither really fit. It's tough. This is another one though that kind of threw people for a loop. Most innovative.
This was the one I would have the biggest problem with.
Yeah, like it
just isn't, and that's fine. It doesn't. That's not speaking negatively about the game. Clearly, from my score, I love the game, but it. Anytime you're talking innovative, those can often be games that do something new with the hobby and new with what's out there that aren't. They may not even be good. We talked about Tragedy Looper many years back about being the most innovative game of the year. It was nominated for a Dice Tower Award, but that wasn't a game that stuck around long for us, and not a game that we necessarily loved. You can be something that's innovative and not great. I don't think this fit the bill for that. I will say, I'm not sure even the Crew or Wavelength would fit the bill for me as runners up in that case. I guess the Crew, in the sense that it's a cooperative trick taking game, makes it fairly innovative. So there's at least a better argument there to me. I don't think there's that same argument you can really make with Wingspan on a mechanics or innovative perspective. So
right.
I don't know.
It also won Best Solo Game over Marvel Champions and twice as clever.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Yeah, I never played it solo myself. Did you ever play it solo?
I've never played it solo. No.
And yeah, I don't know. It's not something I necessarily would have wanted to. It did not win most thematic. Dune took that. What Dune?
Yeah. And Undaunted Normandy, by the way, won Best War Game, which I think probably infuriates you.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about that. So, I mean, very, very strong showing, obviously, for Wingspan with the BGG Awards.
Yeah. Fair enough. The Guild had a lot of thoughts on this across the spectrum. So Francois Miley said, it's a good engine builder, but way too overhyped. It takes the mechanism of Deus and makes it less interesting and even less interactive. The theme, on the other hand, is a breath of fresh air, and maybe we'll see more of these non-traditional themes. At best, a Ducal 3. It's interesting, Sean. We've talked about this game as a gizmos killer. Deus. Does Deus come up as a comparison for you with this game?
That's a really interesting comparison. I hadn't thought about it. And at first I was like, that's weird. And then I started thinking about Deus, a game which I like quite a bit and have played quite a bit since we reviewed it years ago. Raquel really likes it. We've played the Egypt expansion. But yeah, there is a similar mechanism where you're building up a various rows, essentially, of cards that will reactivate time and again. And Deus is a slightly heavier version of that. There are more quote unquote rows. They're actually columns in Deus, but there's more of them. And the actions are slightly more complex. Plus there's a board element with, I'm trying to remember, is it some kind of area control? Kind of. But there's also some positioning that's important. So there's definitely more to the game. It's a heavier game. And I think because of that, I don't necessarily compare them. Whereas with the Gizmos Wingspan, there seemed to be more of a direct comparison because they're similar weight. They don't have additional components or elements that Deus has. Deus, I think I gave Deus a 5. And if I were to pick gameplay, I think I like Deus more than Wingspan, but Wingspan's much more accessible and the production on it is, I mean, light years ahead of Deus.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Light years.
I mean, Deus, that was the biggest problem for me, was its production. That it let me down in that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a terrible production, but it's a solid game. Very solid game.
No, I enjoyed the game. So, it was an interesting comparison that had me think about the two games in a different light. So yeah, no, I see where you're coming from, Francois. John Soleil said, there are a lot of things going for this game. It has a beautiful production and a variety of ways to build your engine. Having the number of actions decrease every round creates a tension that I really like. On paper, it looks like a game that I would love, but in the end, the luck of the draw soured the experience for me. I would give it a Ducal fine, referencing the Abby scale, as you heard just a little bit ago.
Sure.
Yeah, so what was that? I'm trying to think of what that is. Fine, sure, okay. I think that's a 4? Okay, yeah, it's about a 4.
So I would say that for some people, the luck of the draw can be problematic in a lot of games like that. I enjoy that. I enjoy having to dig for the things that I need. I like doing that in Race for the Galaxy. I like doing that in, I mean, just a bunch of card games, you know? Oh, I called it a card game. Shoot.
Yeah, you did.
But no, I like having to dig. Digging is fun. Yes, sometimes it can be frustrating. There can be some games that are really bad, just because you can't get the pieces that you need. I think more often than not, those might be the corner cases, but I get that. Matthew doesn't like digging, and this game requires digging, so I get that.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, I got a confirmation from the couch. It is a 3, not a 4 on the Abby scale. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, BJ from Board Game Gumbo says, Wingspan, which got my vote for Podcast of the Year, is easily my wife's favorite game of last year. Like many, if my spouse likes a game, I'm likely to enjoy the experience even more. It ticks off a lot of boxes for me, plays in about an hour with 2 players, has beautiful art and great combo-y card play, an interesting to me theme, and looks amazing on the table. Solid 4, maybe even a 5 for me. And I would say this, Sean, Abby's enjoyment of this game certainly helps my enjoyment of this game. It's always, I've said it before, and this came up in discussions with a game later in this sextuple take, but it's a feather in a game's cap if she enjoys it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it makes a huge difference. So I agree with BJ, and I would think if we were to look at all the games released last year, it would certainly be Abby's favorite of last year. I would be surprised to think if there was another game that would be more, would be higher on that list for her.
Okay. And then Phil Hendrickson said, Wingspan quickly became a top 10 game for me and my wife. It has become the default go-to game when we want to play something relaxing. The European expansion gave it just enough variety to keep from getting stale and provided more balanced strategy options. And the art and components just make it fun to have out. It's a 6 for me.
Adam Dalton says, I don't get all the hype about the game. 8 of 16 BGG awards seems ridiculous. I mean, how did this win Most Innovative? I think it's a great production. Stonemeyer did a great job promoting just right. The game is solid. However, I think it's just solid. I'm not really into the bird theme. The game dragged with 4+ players. It seemed, granted from limited plays, that just pumping out eggs on the last round was the way to win. I'd play it if someone wanted to play it, but for now it remains a 3 for me on the ducal scale. And yeah, fair enough. I mean, there's going to be different opinions on this, so it is what it is.
I think it's interesting because, we are. Did you vote for the Dice Tower Awards, Alex?
I did not.
Oh,
Did not vote.
Oh, you may get kicked out of the group.
Why? I nominated.
Tom said if you don't vote, you might get kicked out.
Oh, that stuff. Oh. You mean for Dice Tower Awards?
Yeah, that's why I said Dice Tower Awards.
Oh, I think I also didn't vote for that either.
So in the Dice Tower Awards, there's some direction like, hey, look, if you don't have a lot of experience in this category, maybe consider not voting, right? Like if you've only played one game in the category and you decide to vote for that game by default, that's kind of weird, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I think there's definitely some aspect of Wingspan has been so widely played that for a lot of voters, when they were in a given category, they may not have necessarily played half the games that were nominated or even less, right? And so, well, I've played this one a bunch and it's really good and I like it. So it's the one I know, I'm going to vote for it. I can totally see that happening. That's there's not really much you can do about that. Unless you were required. I don't know. I don't want to get into how the BGG awards work, but
Yeah. Look, ultimately, it's a popularity contest, and that was one of the most popular games of the last year.
Yeah.
And the Kennerspiel shows that even on a jury, it's also
Yes.
gotten pretty strong praise. So it's kind of both. I don't think Wingspan itself has anything to be ashamed about. I think if anything,
no.
the system might need some change, but that's not Wingspan's fault. Anyway.
Yeah.
And there were a lot more comments on this game on the Guild, but we narrowed things down because some folks also had comments about our next game. Episode 199, Under the Influence, Underwater Cities. Sean, you were a big fan of this game. You
Heck
gave this
yeah.
one a 6. But you said it was not a very good 6. Number 1 of 2018. Play length for you held it back a little bit, but a top 25 game probably. And you love it when a game stresses you out, and this game stressed you out. I gave this one a 4. I said I enjoyed it, but it paled in comparison to Pulsar 2849. I thought it was clever enough to be satisfying. It was a like, though, not a love. Sean, have you played this one since?
Yes, several times. I have not played the expansion. I said it's not a very good 6.
Yeah, you were very clear about that. You said if you were to look at the gap between this and something like, say, Terraforming Mars, it's a big gap.
Huh.
Both are 6s, but there's a strong gap between the two.
Okay. I think part of that's the accessibility of Terraforming Mars compared to this being somewhat less accessible. It's great. I mean, I do love this game. It is very thinky, very meaty. It feels, there's a bit of a Terraforming Mars feel to it. You're building a tableau of cards. And there's some differences, obviously. There's this engine building production through your network of these underwater cities on your personal board. They produce points, they produce resources, and then there's also a worker placement aspect on the main board. So there's a lot going on here. It's great. It's still very much a 6 for me. Okay, I guess I could guess I could see what I was saying.
You're identifying with your past self. That's good.
Yeah.
Sean, I haven't played it. I haven't played it since. I had only played it once at the time of the review, and I haven't played it since. It's one of those kinds of games, though, that is unlikely for me to play outside of, say, a convention setting or a game night type of setting, and it's going to be someone else suggesting it. The quality of the game is certainly high enough to merit a 4. It's just not one that I necessarily care to own, or the fact that I haven't played it doesn't downgrade it in my mind. It's about what I thought it would be. It's a fine game. I enjoy it. It's a like, not a love. It does a lot of things really well. It's not super accessible, and that for me can be a problem in terms of owning it or wanting to play it more. So it stays at a 4 for me, but I understand why people love it.
Yeah.
Brett Mowers said, "We still enjoy and own Underwater Cities and have recently gotten the expansion for it, which upgrades and adds new player boards, a treasure expansion, asymmetric assistance, and new cards. It's a fantastic expansion and somewhat akin to adding the Prelude expansion to Terraforming Mars. I love it. A strong ducal high 5.
So I would point out one of the reasons I hadn't picked up the expansion was it was kind of expensive. Here, I'm looking it up now, and don't get me wrong, there's a ton that comes in it. Let's see. The expansion itself is $65.
Whoa.
That's the MSRP. Yeah.
Whoa. The MSRP is $65 for that expansion? Are you kidding me?
I am not. The MSRP for Underwater Cities is $69.95. So so $5 cheaper than the main game. There's a lot that comes in. Part of it, like was mentioned, where there's new player boards that I think are recessed, because you have your little habitats, and there's like the factories that surround them, and then the underwater like road tubes, whatever you want to call them, that connect the cities. So they did something where it's recessed, because otherwise things just kind of slide around. One of my favorite things to listen to Matthew complain about, and he loves complaining about stuff, you know that.
Oh boy, howdy does he.
One of my favorite things is he complains about the stacking of the factories, because you could have a level 1 factory or level 2, and you just stack the piece on top of each other. That the new player boards do nothing to help that, because the pieces are completely flat, and so they can still slide about. They need to have a little convex, fitting into each other.
Oh, sure. Okay.
That's what we should do. We should do a top 6 of things that Strawman Matthew likes to complain about.
Okay. I don't think this would be a very popular episode, but I guess we could do it. Sure. We are going to start running out of content pretty quickly here during all of this. All right. Sylvain Lacroix says, the card management aspect mixed with the worker placement mechanism are a great mix. It gave me a vibe of Terraforming Mars for the overall feeling of the gameplay, even if they're 2 different games. Underwater Cities might be a top 20 for me at the moment, and I have not tested the expansion yet, but I own it. That would be a really high 5 for me. So there you go. Sean, we have one more to talk about. Oh boy. This one's going to be faster, though, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Episode 200, Many Runes, Many Moons. We were talking about Call to Adventure. This is a vaguely storytelling-ish game, kind of, sort of. You roll runes, which are kind of these double-sided things instead of dice. You're building characters. There's sort of a story. I don't know. You gave this one a probational 4. You said, we'll see about the expansion. The game needs more complexity and needs more of a game, which I think is a pretty damning statement. I said I gave this one a less enthusiastic 4. Abby enjoyed it, which had it be more in the mix, but it didn't really strike well with me. Could have some fun thematically, but it was mainly, honestly, on the strength of Abby liked the game and dug it, as to why it kind of got a low 4 from me. So I haven't played this one since. I think I overestimated her enthusiasm for the game or enjoyment of it, because we definitely haven't played it since. I'd be perfectly fine getting rid of this. It's legitimately a 3. I probably should have given it that at the time, but we'll have the proper score now. It's a 3. The game is okay. I wasn't as excited by the theme as others were. The game itself is fine. It's not super interesting. Whatever. I'd play it at a convention if someone suggested it and there was nothing better to do, but it doesn't fall to the depths of a 2. I'd play it again, but I just don't care that much about this game.
Well, here's what I'll say. I am very pleased to see that I gave it a probational 4, because when I was thinking about this, I was like, I think I gave it a 5 in the review, and I was kind of embarrassed by that. I was like, did I really give it a 5? Because I don't. So, and what it was I remember really enjoying my first play of it. And my first play, I was like, wow, this could wind up being a 5 after a couple more plays. And no, it kind of trailed off for me. It's a 3 for me as well. Game is okay, not exciting. We'll play in the right situation. I don't have any desire to necessarily play the expansions or get the expansions. It's fine. It's kind of, and you're gonna hate me for this, Alex. It reminds me a little bit of Fog of Love.
Whoa.
In that it's straddling between a game and storytelling session.
Here's the thing, though. The thing with Fog of Love is there's actually a legitimate story you get into.
It's much better. Fog of Love is much better.
Right. And Call to Adventure, you don't get into the story. I maybe in one play got into the story, kind of. In Fog of Love, every time I've played has been a unique experience. So, yeah.
I'm not insulting Fog of Love. I'm just saying it's similar in that it's trying to straddle these two things.
Yeah.
And in a Call to Adventure's case, it doesn't do it nearly as well.
Yeah, I get you.
What did the guild have to say, Alex?
It had nothing to say, Sean, at least as far as I could tell. So
that's too bad.
I think that's a statement in and of itself a lot of times with a double take if the guild doesn't say anything. So, that'll do it for the Duke's quadruple take. Let's go through these one at a time here. Wingspan goes from a 5 and stays at a 5 for you. Goes from a 5 up to a 6 for me. And then goes from a probational. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I got distracted. The microphone showed up while we were talking through this.
Sean. Oh, terrific.
And Abby was opening up the bag to show me it was, in fact, a microphone. And I threw a Sharpie at her to try and get her to stop doing so. That wasn't an effective strategy. Anyway, Underwater Cities stays at a 6 for Sean, stays at a 4 for me. Abby says rude. And by says, I mean she wrote. Call to Adventure was a 4 for both of us, but a pretty weak 4, and it dropped from a 4 to a 3 for both of us. And that'll do it for the Duke's sextuple take.
Yet, Alex, more evidence that we did not deserve to be nominated for a Golden Geek Award.
Every episode is more evidence that we didn't deserve to be nominated, Sean. Every single episode. Just accept it. Be okay with it. It's all right. All right, let's talk about the best of the rest, the episodes we didn't pick, but maybe came close to. We had some good contenders this week, Sean. Some very good contenders. BJ from Board Game Gumbo came with Stellar! So, yeah.
So that is a reference to A Streetcar Named Desire, Alex, which you didn't know. You said,
Nope.
I've never... Well, first I sang a song. I'm a dame and you're a fella. Stanley, stop or I'll tell Stella. Which is from The Simpsons, when they do A Streetcar Named Desire, the musical. But you didn't know the reference, and you hadn't... And you said, I haven't seen the other, or the original. Like, we could have read it.
I also didn't read it.
Wow, I tried to recreate the funny banter that we had off air, and it was
didn't
just
work,
awkward.
Sean. Nice
really
try,
didn't
though.
work.
Anyway.
Nope. Awkward.
So that was BJ. Nice job.
Yay, BJ. And then Steve O'Rourke, the name father, suggested skydiving. Sky making reference to the sun or stars in Stellar. Also birds, they're up in the sky. And the diving makes sense with Underwater Cities. So skydiving.
Yes, and perhaps the diving score in Call to Adventure being referenced there. Anyway, Brett Mowers suggested Stellar's on the table and needs a review. Alex sets it up in the board game room. When you're coming back, Sean, we don't know when. Abby's got ya till then. Which,
Have you heard that song before, Cats in the Cradle?
I have heard that song before. Okay. I don't know if I sung it particularly well, but I have heard it. Anyway, I will say that when I sung this earlier, Abby was not a fan of my singing. Also wanted to point out that we don't have a board game room. So, yep.
Alex, any room is a board game room if you're there having fun playing board games.
Sean, this room is that currently has board games in it is an office. It is 100% not a board game room. Abby's 2 giant monitors are taking up the table. My other computer is taking up part of the other table, and the rest of it is just filled with random junk. that has arrived. I see a Consumer Reports. I see Barbie Queen of the Prom. I see the new microphone that just arrived that will have been used to record the podcast in the recent past, but also future. Anyway.
Oh, wait, that assumes that your XLR cable comes in.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I have seen a windscreen. So
okay.
We'll see what happens, Sean.
Hopefully an XLR cable shows up soon.
I also haven't seen a stand for this. So
yeah, it's all, everything got shipped separately apparently.
Great. So. Wonderful. Happy to put that kind of a toll on the logistics supply chain line at this time.
All right, the next one from Baker Mitchell is the Icarus episode, which I was a big fan of this title. It is very clever. So Icarus, of course, referring to the Greek myth of Icarus and his father Daedalus. Are they trying to escape Tartarus, or they're just trying to escape? I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, they make wings out of feathers and like wax. And he's like, okay, Icarus, son, don't get too close to the sun because the sun's going to melt the wax. And what does Icarus do? That little stinker, he flies too close to the sun, the wax melts, and he plummets to his death in the ocean. The end.
Yep.
My good myth teller, Alex?
That's pretty solid. Yeah, I mean, you could have said, yeah, don't fly too close to the sun, son. That could have.
So we got the flying, right? With that's Wingspan up towards the sun. That's stellar, and then the plummeting score again.
Well, that wasn't why that was in there.
I know, and then but diving into the ocean. That's Underwater Cities. This is what Baker Mitchell said. He fell to his ruin, which is the runes.
Yeah, a little bit of a stretch
Call
there.
to Adventure.
Yeah, but a good effort and definitely a strong runner-up.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think retroactively we'll say the plummeting score for A Call to Adventure.
Can I say, by the way, we had another one that probably would have been your pick, but I think has already been used as an episode title before, Fly Me to the Moon. So
yeah,
didn't make the cut, but either it was in a top 6 or outright won. I don't know offhand, but anyway. All right, last but not least, John Saleh with Gazing at Air, Land, and Sea. Air referencing wings, wingspan, and stellar, and stargazing. Land referencing the land in Call to Adventure that you're out exploring, and sea, of course, referencing Underwater Cities. So there you go.
So real quick, I consulted with the Dukes of Dice historian, who goes by G. Oogle, and it was episode 195, Fly Me to the Moon, where we reviewed Azul Stained Glass of Sintra, which also had Abby.
Yes.
I feel
what a coincidence.
I feel like I'm getting edged out of my own show here.
Look,
slowly but surely.
Sean, the parallel to me is more when I disappeared for several months to Southeast Asia, and you kind of kept the show going on. This is kind of like that, except you still have to participate and actually do work.
and do the editing.
Right, yeah. You still have to do a good chunk of the work. It's just, less of the work. So, yeah. Anyway.
Well, terrific. Just terrific. All right. Well, I think this is the earliest I'm going to get out of the basement this week.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's great. Unless I decide to say, hey, I should answer a few more emails. No, I'm done. I need to be done for tonight. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it, everybody, for episode 225. Thanks again to Scott Brantz for naming this episode Filling the Void. Until next time, this is Sean.
And Alex.
And Duke you later, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to The Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy on May 7th, 2020. Our theme music provided by Carbohydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out dicetowernetwork.com. And for all the latest in the Duchy, go to dukesofdice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsors, Arcane Wonders and Game Toppers LLC. You can find out more about Arcane Wonders' fine titles at arcanewonders.com and learn all you need to know about Game Toppers at gametoppersllc.com. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Until then, stay safe and game on.